Hello, I'm Peter Whittle. We have witnessed this week one of the most encouraging developments that we've seen in this country in years. The spontaneous, viral eruption of English and British flags. And it's been absolutely glorious to see. Labelled Operation Raise the Colours, the English have been covering lampposts, roundabouts and even potholes with the English flag, the Cross of St George. It is no exaggeration to say that recently there's been no more shocking flag to see in England than the English one. We have become entirely accustomed to the flags of Ukraine, Palestine, Pakistan, India, Israel, BLM, the EU, and of course, the most sacred of all flags, the flag of the New Britain, the Progress Pride flag, which represents just about everyone except straight white men. But raise the English flag and all hell breaks loose. If the raising of your national flag in your own country is a bold act of rebellion, then you are either living under occupation or under the boot of an institutionally treacherous state. Now, according to the journalist Fraser Nelson, however, Britain has never been better. For Danny Finkelstein, columnist at the Times, yes, mass immigration was a reckless error, but there is nothing to be done about it. So don't complain. Don't be a victim. Well, let's have a quick recap, shall we, before judging who precisely is entitled to feel somewhat aggrieved. It began with decades of mass third world immigration, unasked for and unwanted, and the doctrine, therefore, of multiculturalism, pursued with a religious fervour. Then the grooming gang scandal finally came to light in 2011. The industrial rape of our children by Pakistani gangs with the complicity of the Labour Party, the police, the civil service and the Crown Prosecution Service. The biggest scandal, undoubtedly, in British history. Then Brexit in 2016, a clear demand for national sovereignty and a rejection of globalism. What was the elite's response? First, to try to crush and overturn the referendum. And when that failed, they unleashed the Boris wave, peaking at 906,000 arrivals in June 2023, mostly from the Third World. That same month, Sadiq Khan's office was found to have internal guidance prohibiting the use of white families in promotional photos of London, as they are, quote, not real Londoners. Clearly, in their eyes, London now belongs to the minorities. Just a few months later, in October, after the Hamas butchery in Israel, the marches started. Every single weekend, the streets were filled with Palestinian flags and all manner of Islamist flags. Children dressed as terrorists while smiling policemen took their photo with them. There was violence, intimidation, our war memorials trampled on, roving gangs on quad bikes marauding around central London on Christmas Eve. And throughout it all, the police did virtually nothing, saying openly at one point that they would be attacked if they intervened. Two-tier policing had firmly arrived in the English consciousness. 3 months later, Afghan asylum seeker Abdul Azidi launched an acid attack on a woman in a London street. And shortly after that, in June 2024, Sadiq Khan banned England flags from being flown from London taxis for the European Cup. No English flags in the English capital. A month later, on July 18, 2024, the Hare Hills region erupted into minority riots. Buses were set ablaze, police were attacked, yet those responsible were treated with kid gloves by the authorities. Few arrests, no stern condemnation from Keir Starmer. The very next day, July 19th, Bangladeshis in London rioted over events in their homeland. No arrests that we know of, were made. Just 4 days later, July 23rd, 2 Pakistani thugs went on a violent rampage at Manchester Airport, headbutting a man and assaulting multiple police officers, including breaking the nose of a female officer. Leaked footage of their arrest led to angry protests, including mobs attacking Rochdale police station, many with faces uncovered.
If we don't get justice, yeah, these motherfuckers are gonna get it. ठीक है? I don't need a microphone.
None of these men, to my knowledge, have ever been arrested. The following week, Axel Rudakabana targeted a girls' dance class for one of the most depraved acts of butchery in British history. One of his victims, a 6-year-old little girl, he stabbed 122 times and tried to decapitate. Another was stabbed 85 times. She was just 7 years old. Rudakabana is the son of Rwandan refugees, people Britain had given sanctuary to. This was our reward. A similar reward was given us by Salman Abedi, the Manchester arena bomber who killed 22. His parents were Libyan refugees. But Southport was a tipping point. The English had finally had enough, and rioting erupted, much of it ugly. Keir Starmer leapt into action, denouncing the protests as, quote,
far-right thuggery,
and promising substantive sentencing. The judiciary and police duly obliged. One man, a grandfather, Peter Lynch, with no criminal record, would commit suicide in prison after being sentenced to 2 years and 8 months. His crime was to shout at the police. Lucy Connolly, a 42-year-old mother of 3, was given a 31-month prison sentence for a swiftly deleted Facebook post that made no direct call for violence. Nick Lowles, of the far-left attack group Hope Not Hate, tweeted that a Muslim woman had been attacked with acid in the protests. This was entirely untrue and deeply inflammatory. Ricky Jones, a Labour councillor, called on counter-protesters to, quote, slit the throats of these concerned parents and locals protesting an act of mass butchery.
They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cull their throats and get rid of them all.
Meanwhile, armed Muslim gangs roamed the streets with impunity. Many attacks on white people were filmed. Police were filmed telling them they could return their weapons to the mosque.
If there's any weapons or anything like that, what I would do is discard them in the mosque.
Why are mosques storing weapons? Another senior officer explained how this particular community had been asked what kind of policing they wanted and were duly given, namely no policing at all. Nick Lowles was never arrested. Ricky Jones was not remanded in custody nor bullied into a guilty plea and was not tried for over a year. He was just found not guilty by a jury, a definitive case of two-tier justice. One of the airport thugs has still not been sentenced at the time of recording this. Post-Southport, two-tier justice has become deadly serious as the public itself begin to understand that the British state itself has been ideologically captured. The police later confirmed, contrary to the claims of Keir Starmer, that the protests had not, in fact, been far-right agitators, but overwhelmingly organic local protests. Keir Starmer has never been held to account for his leading role in a potential miscarriage of justice that resulted in a man's death. All of this, for so many years now, has gone on against the steady drumbeat of stories like the following from a South Yorkshire police report about so-called Asian gangs. A rape gang beat 2 girls so badly that they required hospital treatment, but because the girls used racist language, the police focused on them. The abusers weren't arrested. The same abusers later broke into a house to threaten a 7-year-old whose sister they thought might talk to the police. Another backstory had also been gathering steam. The British state had in 2020 begun to house illegal immigrants, including rapists and murderers, in luxury hotels, paid for by you and me. The majority from North Africa and the Middle East. Nationals from these nations have exceptionally high rates of violent crimes and particularly rape throughout Europe. Stories of attacks and worse on schoolgirls became commonplace. This summer, 1 year on from Southport, the English are snapping once again. Phone thefts, shoplifting and gate jumping at train stations have become entirely commonplace. Casual, the visible disintegration of law and order, and certain demographics seem to dominate these crimes. On July the 11th, a number of schoolchildren were sent home for wearing British and English flags to a themed day in which they were told to wear their traditional cultural dress, reflecting their heritage or nationality. Of course, being teachers, being part of the British state, they meant celebrate every foreign culture and were furious to see Union Jacks and St George crosses. 2 days later, on July the 13th, at the Bell Hotel in Epping, locals there staged the first major migrant hotel protest after an asylum seeker was charged with the alleged sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl. Crucially, these protests were often led by women, mothers concerned for their daughters.
And we're out here to save our children, to protect them.
As the country rallied behind them, protests soon started to spread. The Daily Mail reported in just the last 3 years, at least 300 hotel migrants have been charged with crimes, including 69 assaults, 54 thefts, 35 sexual assaults, 29 assaults on emergency workers, 24 rapes, and 11 child sex offences. They only studied around 1/3 of the migrant hotels for that survey, so the true figures will be significantly higher. But something else had changed at this time. No one cared about the inevitable smears of the elites and their attack dogs in the establishment media, let alone the dishevelled gangs of masked, shrieking communists. Far-right, Nazis, England doesn't care much for those words anymore. They have seen the atrocities that such words shield. The left's moral authority has disintegrated. The public have seen them for what they are, and they have seen the great Blairite project for what it is, the dispossession of their own nation. And what is a nation? It's a people united by a common descent, history, culture, or language, inhabiting a particular country. All of these elements are in the process of deconstruction in Britain, replaced by a balkanised global mass, an island of strangers. The most crucial element of a nation to destroy is its reciprocal sense of allegiance and loyalty, an idea so integral to any human society that in most it doesn't even need saying, namely that the nation exists primarily to protect and advance the interests of its own people. That central pillar of the social contract has in Britain been smashed to pieces. What underlies mass immigration, the fake refugee hotels, two-tier policing, the rape gang scandal, the trashing of our history, the constant demonisation of our nation and of white people, is the fanatical desire to prioritise and elevate the foreign over the indigenous. The English must have no more right to England's land than a Kashmiri peasant. Some would call the official ideology of the British state anti-racist. Well, I would call it institutionally treasonous. The former Labour strategist John McTernan is at least honest about this project. The ethnic displacement of the English from their capital is a great triumph for him. Indeed, even the concept of the ethnic English is to him truly evil. Such views are commonplace on the British left. Do not underestimate their hatred of Britain and its people. From Birmingham lit up to celebrate Pakistani independence, to Hamas marches, to Operation Raise the Colours, to the Pakistani rape gangs, which resemble inter-ethnic war crimes, the Ulsterisation of the country is now happening at pace, just as the British public always knew it would. And the reaction to our flags has been as telling as it was predictable. Minorities were lined up on TV to debate just how racist our flags were, when and where we should be allowed to fly them, and the terrible crimes that the flags signify. Birmingham and Tower Hamlets in London, two of the most colonised parts of England, were of course swift to remove the flags. They understand the realities far better than our liberal and even so-called conservative commentariat. In raising their flags across the country, the message of the English has been quite clear. This land is not a refugee camp. It is not UN territory. It is a nation. It is England. It took us 1,000 years to build it, and it's ours. It is not a dumping ground for Syrian rapists, Afghani terrorists, or Sudanese machete gangs. They have no business here. Immigrants should be a benefit to the British, as many are, not the butchers of our schoolgirls, nor the violent clannish predators of hostile and alien lands. We are done with all this, and we're done pretending otherwise. The English are finally waking up, and a generational slumber is coming to an end. What they have awoken to is an existentially alarming sight, and there are no paths forward without significant difficulties. But do not despair, things are moving fast. 45% of the public now want deportations of illegals and recent arrivals, and we still have 4 more years of this Labour government to go. We may be a long way from port, but the wind is at our backs. So take your flags and get to work. England expects.